Hi, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Roast in the Ceilings podcast, where we interview amazing women across different industries, across different walks of life for the girls listening. So, thank you for tuning in. Today, we have a special guest with us, Deb Drummond. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, hello. So nice to meet you, all of you. You know what? It's always an honor to get asked to share. It means that you're probably doing something right. So I appreciate that.
I love that. Do you want to tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I live in beautiful Vancouver, Canada. So lucky me. I have two great kids. They're just good humans, right? I have one daughter who absolutely loves the world of corporate and then exited out to be a child specialist for 0 to 3-year-old children. And then I have a son. His name is Ocean. And Isabella, you met Ocean. He just turned 22, started his business at 12, got serious at 15, and launched in 19 in streetwear art and fashion. So I have an abundant family life. I have built 7 international companies. I started in my 20s. So I'm not going to tell you how long and how many years on the planet. I've been here a little bit, doing a few decades of building business. I will tell you that I started the first networking group in Vancouver because there wasn't any in my house. Sunday at 2, bring your kids. And everyone pitched in $2 and we all took care of everybody. I'm not 90, but that's how fast things have grown. So there was no resources and there was no internet and there was none of that. So it was kind of interesting and definitely forging and definitely pioneering. Now I'm the owner of the Women's Channel and an accessible media house. Accessibility meaning 3 things is we don't put people on media if they don't know how to yield from being on that media, right? So we teach what to do and how to do it so that you don't have to do 40 podcasts in 2 years or a year or 1 month. You can yield from doing half of those if you do them right. The second part of accessibility is that I sit in this chair very early to very late many times because we are from Africa to Canada. So we are accessible in all time zones. The other accessibility is that we have the largest International Women's Day speakership and authorship in the world. And it is by donation. We tell people if you can't donate, we expect you to because there's a free button there with no questions asked for those that need that incredible powerhouse. They're very powerful. It's like 30 women. It's undescribable, the empowerment that's shared. It's kind of life-changing in 12 hours. So that's our accessibility, and that's where I'm kind of hanging what I do, publications and podcasts and radio and TV and basically visibility.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about this passion for women's empowerment. I feel that a lot of young girls might be having this. They might have this kind of conviction, but they don't exactly know where to start or what to do to act on this. So, from your perspective, what was that moment for you where you're like, yes, I can start building this thing?
I think that's interesting. I think that I naturally so we just produced a book of 262 women. The criteria was gumption. By nature, it attracted a lot of self-funded, fuel-based women. But when I say that, people have a picture of what it looks like, right? It's like, oh, people like me that want to build 7 companies. That's not necessarily the truth. The truth is, in that book are, yeah, 5-time Emmy Award winners because they're as good as their last movie. And you'd think, oh, wow, 5-time Emmy Award winners, you don't have to go out and hustle. Not true. The other, we've had a woman who spoke on our summit the last time. It was the first time she ever spoke ever. Right. And so everything in between. So I think gumption is a description of where you're at and and how brave you're willing to act on. So I think for me, truly the first time that I felt empowered, I can tell you from a business standpoint and a personal standpoint. So a personal standpoint, I went into the living room. Now, I was always raised on vinyl. I have 2 kids. I have a record player. You've never been to my house and not seen a record player. I used to do a lot for the music industry and still do. Music to me is like, I don't know, it's like water for some people. So the first time I put on a Janis Joplin album, and I don't know if everyone out there knows who Janis Joplin is, and if you don't, it's a shame, but she's part of the 27 Club. So she unfortunately left the planet when she was 27, like, Kurt Cobain and Jimi Hendrix and all of that. So the first time I put that album on, I felt kin. That's all I can tell you. It was like, wow, I felt like I met someone. And someone out there it might be someone else. It might be Katy Perry. It might be, Cher just took it on the Grammys, right? She just took the Grammys was a couple days ago, and Cher finally got recognized. Like, oh my gosh, she was like, hey, good thing time was running out, But has there been someone that you've read, or someone that you've listened to, or someone that you've seen? And it doesn't have to be, a celebrity. I don't even think Janis Joplin would have called herself a celebrity, right? She's just a cool chick that did good music. And I think, so for me, I had something spark inside. I did not know it would convert into empowerment. And then I think, one of the first things from a business standpoint that I saw empowerment was, I was young. I was probably about 8 years old, and my dad had left the home and left my mom not very financially solid. And so she found rescue in a home party company called Tupperware. And so she took me to a Tupperware party across the street, because that's how it works. And at 8 years old or so, I stood there and I watched the first circle of commerce. Now, I obviously was eating things I shouldn't eat and listening to stories I shouldn't listen to. I was 8 years old, but my mom didn't have money for a babysitter, and my brother was 2 years older and at 10 years old. Thank you for not leaving me with my brother. But I saw this camaraderie. I thought I saw a lot of joy. I saw commerce and transaction, and it made an impression upon me. Like, it really made an impression upon me. So I think maybe being raised by a single mom, knowing what have and not have really feels like and felt like, and that can happen at any time in anyone's life, no matter where you come from. And I always just had that piece. And then it wasn't really until I started getting into the world of empowerment that I really even saw how disempowered things were. Like, some things that people would never even remember. I remember one of my biggest pet peeves was when you used to go do an application, either an application for work or an application for a credit card or an application for anything, and there was 5 choices. MR, Mr., if you were, an 18-year-old guy to a 90-year-old guy. But for a woman, it was MS, MISS, or MRS. And it used to bother me. At what point does my marital status make a difference on an application? So little things like that used to be really, and there can be bigger things that can bother you for sure. But I still remember in Vancouver marches on International Women's Day. WAVA would put them on, and they're just a lot of the reason why we do what we do for International Women's Day is so that there is a remembrance of solidarity. And so, yeah, I don't know if that's a long-winded way of answering your question, Isabella, but that's just kind of me.
I love that. I love how you spoke about different times you felt empowerment in your own life your life. And I wonder if you can kind of share what empowerment means to you, because I think we hear so many different definitions of it. So how do you view empowerment in your life and in others?
Yeah, that's a pretty vast question. I think empowerment can be interpreted differently in relationship to where you are in your life and what it feels like and what your experiences are. I think empowerment can be dictated by culture, community, environment, choices, beliefs, parental beliefs, who was making the impression upon you when you were younger, what you read, what you watch. Like, I really feel that it's a personal experience. I think for me, empowerment also is an embodiment. It is a feeling that when I listen to someone or hear someone or listen to Janis Joplin, it was a visceral experience of feeling like I had ownership over myself. And I think empowerment for me very much is ownership over myself, which means that I am free to make decisions that give me a sense of solidarity within myself, right? That I have freedom. So I think for me, empowerment is really tied to freedom and choices and self regulated decisions. And that also empowerment is an isolated experience in relationship to that. And that means that I honor someone else's form of empowerment. But I believe that for me, I guess if I had to relate it to anything, I would relate it to freedom.
I love that so much. Thank you for answering that so personally. And I want to go a little bit back to your background. You start this podcast saying you've started all of these businesses, you started these networking things. And when you say these things, I'm sure people have some conceptions in their head, right? So, what are some misconceptions that people might think when they hear, oh, you're the successful woman who's built these things from the ground up? What do people think that might not be true?
What do they think that might not be true? It's interesting because when you've been, I think, in business, or when you've been in your craft, or you've been doing what you've been doing for a long period of time, you tend to be in conversation with people that are same natured, right? But I've come to believe that it's not usual. And what I mean by that, I don't mean to sound negligent when I say that, but for me, I'm just being me. Like, truly, I didn't set out to build 7 companies. I didn't set out to, one of the probably my greatest obvious, I mean, other than having a television channel, is is that I've been in Success Magazine 48 times. I can honestly tell you, when that happened for me, it was around growth and acquisition of opening up countries for someone else's company. I can tell you the reason why I got up every morning and put my feet on the ground was because I was really inspired by the products that this company sold, because it was health and wellness, and I'm a very picky person on health and wellness. So there was a product for the brain that I had a very deep connection to. The second thing is that I was just coming through a marital status change, which completely affected my family in relationship to finances in all the ways possible you would never want to happen to you. And so I was fueled by taking care of my family. And I was fueled because I found the magic elixir, which was something I really believed in. And I literally turned the position down 6 times till my daughter, who was 19, said, "I'll do it with you." And I was like, "No." She's like, "I'll do it with you." And I'm like, "Okay." And then within 60 days, we were like the #1 in the country. And I had different whys I was doing what I was doing. And then what happened from that was the result of high level success. So for me, I think that when people say, "Wow, I can't believe that you did it," it's kind of like if you had triplets and people go, "I can't believe you did it." But you do it because it's there. You do it because it needs doing. And I think that's the difference for me around, this women's empowerment or the businesses that I do. It's a calling. It's a calling. And the best way I can explain it, because, I guess that not everybody builds 7 companies and not everybody decides to take this on. And honestly, I say that my next book, and we're in publication, and they're like, "What's your next book?" I go, "You know what it is? It's #God pick on somebody else." Because I hear these messages like start a podcast. I'm traveling around the world teaching brain health. And I hear start a podcast, and I had known 2 people that had a podcast at that time. I mean, that's how ridiculous it was. I'm like, this is ridiculous, you know? But I said yes, I guess. So I would say to you, misconception would be, I don't think people think it's easy, and they're accurate. It's not. I don't think people misconceive that you don't have to sacrifice, because you do. But I will tell you a story which will give you, I think, the answer that you might be looking for. Is I live in a condo, and I came in, and I have great relationships with my concierges because I get lots of packages. And one of my concierges is on my Facebook. Well, you can imagine that, oh, you're going here, you're going there, we're doing this event, we're doing that event. I'm in media. So people see my external life, right? Not always my internal, but my external. And I, came to pick up some packages. He said, "Do you know what I wish for you?" And I said, "What?" And he said, and he's such a great guy. He goes, "I wish for you a 2-week vacation of just doing absolutely nothing." And I looked at him and I said, and so this is the misconception that you're talking about, because everyone assumes that because you're abundant, you're unhappy. And I said to him, "Do I look unhappy?" And he looked at me and he goes, "I'm talking for me, I guess, hey?" I go, "Yeah, I think so." He goes, "Because I would want 2 weeks holiday, or what you do, I couldn't do. I said, you're not supposed to. So I think the misconception is that people think that I'm dragging myself out of bed. I hear this a lot. Do you ever sleep? I go, like a baby. Like I don't wake up. Like I close my eyes. I don't wonder if I'm doing the right thing. I wake up in the morning and tired or not tired, happy, not happy, joyful, not joyful, no different than if I worked Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. That's the misconception. The misconception is that somehow I experience a depth of exhaustion that no one else would, or like I must be unhappy. Now look at, I help my son do his company and I do mine. I'm not saying that I don't do that, but I'm also not, I'm happy. Like I'm happy. So I think that's a misconception, is that busy people are unhappy or that they're missing out. And the truth is, like an artist, that gets to paint, no one said to like Picasso, you should go to bed early. Or, Michael Day, like you're painting. I always say to people, just think of it this way, that I have, many companies or many divisions. Just imagine that they're all canvases. And imagine that I'm an artist. And instead of painting pictures, I build business. They're like, oh, I get it.
Oh, wow. I love that you spoke to, we hear a lot this concept of hustle culture, especially in today's world with so much social media and all of the different influences. So I love that you spoke to this feeling of having your purpose and having your calling and
Hmm.
following it, and that being at the core rather than the idea of just being busy. I really love that. And I want to speak more to the process of entrepreneurship and building all of these incredible things. And I'm wondering for you, what would be a piece of advice you wish someone gave you while you were building that you would like to pass on to maybe young girls who are listening who want to become entrepreneurs themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. That question's always a difficult one for me because I was in my 20s. So, you're looking over 30 years ago, and the accessibility to the availability of being able to build a business is so much more respected, accepted, fueled, funded, grants, communities, networking groups. There's so many things that we didn't have. There was literally 9 of us in my basement suite going, okay, what are we going to do? You know what I mean? And how are we going to do it? And, how's your family feel about it? I'm like, oh, I don't know. My cousin just told my daughter that, I'm a bad mom. You know what I mean? Like we came from a very different place in relationship to when I started my business. But, I guess what I would say to someone who is just starting out or is at that place where they're formulating, is that for me, I was high risk. And I think when you're in the beginning, it's safer to high risk. People would think now it would be safer for me to high risk. I am high risk by nature, but I think about some of the things that I did in the beginning of my business. Spend money that I didn't have in the bank, but it was always there when the check had the cash. You know what I mean? Like I remember paying off my credit card, and I remember my daughter's father at the time. He's like, "What are you doing?" So we wrote checks back then. He's like, "Why are you writing a check to Visa?" He goes, "We can't pay that." I go, "No, but by the time that they cash it, we will." He's like, "You just drive me insane," right? He was not a big fan of that philosophy, but you need to be prepared to take risk. Like you just need to be prepared to take risk and take it when the stakes are low. And if you take it when the stakes are low, like in the beginning, what are you going to lose? $1,500? What are you going to lose? 2,000, 3,000? Because when you start to build, you will have, exercise that muscle. You'll know that your intuition is your guidance. And you'll also know the difference between fear and not fear. And what I mean by that is even for myself, standing up, going out, I was going to step out into my first red carpet and I was representing the whole company and off we go. And it was a Oscars event or an Emmys event, whatever it was. And I remember being in the bathroom and I loved my dress and I looked really good and the makeup artist was there and there was no reason for me to have any bleep. And all of a sudden the goblin showed up. The goblin showed up. And I know myself enough now because I've exercised the muscle. I've done things when I'm fearful. I've done things when I'm not ready. I've done things when I bought things when I was like, ooh, I don't know. Right. And here I am still standing all these years later. And this goblin started to go for it. And I literally turned to it, turned like it was talking to me. And I said something that you can probably figure out that I couldn't say on air. And I was like, bugger off. Okay. Um, and I'm like, oh, if I need to talk to you, that'll be tomorrow. I mean, I was even snarky, right? And so it's going to take you a while to figure out the difference between, truth and fear. So jump, go, go for it. You'll make it. It'll be okay. It's always okay. You'll always have, I had a friend of mine who used to coach me, and he used to always say, Deb, you'll always have rice in your bowl. We don't know how much rice, but you'll always have rice in your bowl. Right. And so that was a really interesting way of telling me, like, you're going to be okay. There'll be food in the fridge. And that's entrepreneurship. That's entrepreneurship. And it's just a muscle that you have to exercise. Um,
Yeah, I love that idea of personifying the goblin and being able to kind of fight back against it. And I know that's
mhm.
probably one of the biggest challenges that young entrepreneurs go through, or people who want to become entrepreneurs. So do you just have any more advice for the young girls out there? How do you tell the goblin to go away if it's persistent, if it keeps talking to you?
Yeah, so there's, gosh, there's, I wake up now and there's a million different YouTube things that you can listen to. But I will say this in relationship to who you're listening to. People say, how did you get to where you are? And I'll tell you, I came from a place of not have. Like, I remember standing outside my house and going, I'm going to live differently. We just didn't have, back then, if you didn't have it, you didn't have it. Um, I remember we used to eat wieners and beans and there was no wieners. Like I had an older cousin who was a girl, and I got her hand-me-downs, and the cousin below me got mine, and it was all very much like that. And so I had to really do a lot of work to get to mentally prepare myself to hold the container of each layer of success. And each time you want to go bigger, you're going to be at your fundamentals again, right? I'm at a place right now where we've got a pretty big agenda, and I'm at some fundamentals and things. That's just the way it is. When people say, how did you get to where I got to? I'm like, coaches, 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 and then a couple of extra coaches, some experts, right? I mean, now at the stage that I'm at, I hire experts, but I say also counselors and therapists, because where you go, honey, you go. And so if you've got trauma or drama or emotional stuff, or you're grieving because something happened or whatever, where you go, you go. And it's a very CEO technique to be able to compartmentalize and go, I'll come back to you later. So, you can come back, I'm going to go to work and you can be there when I come back. So I think you have to learn how to navigate your emotional intelligence. That only comes with a sense of maturity. And maturity, not meaning how many years on the planet, I mean maturity in relationship to your experience of what you're doing. And in terms of being able to decipher where, if it's true or not true, ask it. Ask it. So I always say to people, like, if you listen to Dr. Daniel Amen, he'll tell you, like, it's way over 76% of the things that we say to ourselves every day is not true. It's just that we, in a nanosecond, know, we know, we know, we know. So when something's like, I don't think you can do it, or who do you think you are? It was kind of a who do you think you are stepping out on this red carpet. I was like, who do I think I am? Oh, pretty good, actually. I earned myself to be here, you know, got myself here. And I could have answered that question if I wanted to. I just had been able through the years. Now you got to think too, I taught meditation for 27 years. Like, I have a good sense of who I am on the inside. I've done some of that work, that I'm able to decipher that voice. But if you have someone really, really, really trusted, like a coach, that you can take your I don't knows to, that's where you go. And I say this with all the love in the world. Do not go ask your bank teller advice about your marriage. And what I mean by that is, most of us go to the people we love, or the people we have a trusted relationship with, right? So if you go to your best friend who's not going to be an entrepreneur, or who hasn't made it to where you want to go yet, you're going to get that kind of advice. And she loves you, or he loves you, and they want to give you the best, and they're going to cheer you on, and you're going to have your cheer squad and you're going to have your success squad, and they are not the same. So take your stuff to your success squad, and they'll walk you through the, what do we call it now? The imposter syndrome, or the conversations of self. But eventually you'll be able to stand outside yourself and go, that's crap. That's just crap. And I think the most powerful thing about success, I did a book of 262 women, and we just honestly very successful. And they said, Deb, what do you want to write on the page that everybody sees? And they open it up. I could have filled, you know what I wrote? Bravery is love. Done. Like truly, right? So I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully it does.
I do. I think it did. I think it did. Definitely being able to notice when it's that goblin talking to you and kind of knowing who to go to in that
Yeah.
process. I love that. And as you know, we get a lot of young girls listening to this podcast, and they might be looking up to you, and they might be saying like, wow, like, how do I take that next step? What do you think is the biggest thing that holds back young entrepreneurs from taking that next step?
Who's your circle of influence? Sometimes you need to step out of your circle. I'm going to tell you, I went to one of my dearest friends. I started the first aromatherapy home party company in North America. I'm going to tell you, there wasn't an aromatherapy store. There wasn't, yoga. There was no yoga. I don't even know if there was Starbucks. Okay. There wasn't holistic life. When we first started my holistic studio, people thought reflexology was woo woo. Okay. So I say to this woman who's highly successful in a jewelry home party company who wants me to join her company, and I say, I'm going to formulate products and I'm going to start my own. She looked at me. She was a good friend, and, bless her because she's on the other side. She said, no one's ready for aromatherapy. And you know what I said inside my head that I didn't say outside my face? Probably, you know what I said. I was like, yeah, watch me. I mean, that was my fuel, right? So whatever your fuel is, I mean, there's just no downfall to following intuitively what it's meant to be. And two things. One is, I would say, stop worrying about the outcome. Stop worrying about this thing that I do is going to bring you all the success in the world. I did not know I was going to own a media company and walk a red carpet ever in my life. What I knew in my first company is I was on my way to get a degree in women's studies and religious studies and go help women in third world countries, right? Create economic platform. I had this great wanted surprise, which is now my daughter. And I went to a muffin shop because I was pregnant, and it was the only muffin shop in the city. And it was 40 minutes from my house that had sugar-free, wheat-free, dairy-free, muffins. I saw a pink flyer. I grabbed it because I like pink. And that was an advertisement for a holistic health class. And I ended up owning a holistic studio for 18 months. And here I am. Like, you don't know the unforeseen. You just don't know the unforeseen. There's a great proverb that I would say. It's a Scottish Himalayan proverb, and it's very long, and I'll save you the length. But what I will say, it says, when you say yes, all unforeseen circumstances come into play. And you will never know what those unforeseen, I'm getting tingles on my head. So that's true. You'll never know what happens unless you actually do it. And sometimes we do things to find out it's not the thing. I took in my holistic health days, I took a class at UBC for Chinese medicine. You know what I found out? I liked Ayurvedic medicine better. I spent money. I spent time. I had a great time. The teacher was just a crazy lady. I mean, woohoo, crazy, right? But what I found out was I spent all that time and money to find out that I wanted to go in a different direction. Who cares? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So we have the resources today and the support today. There is no reason why anyone doesn't take one step and put it in front of the other. It's just, no, that's not what the women before and forging paths and, fighting with placards. They didn't lay it down for us to go, I don't think so. They laid it down to go, let me pick it up. I'm going to run for the next generation. Yeah, I am.
Wow, I really love that mindset of not thinking about whatever outcome you're gonna get and really just following your intuition and guiding yourself and staying present and staying mindful too, I think is something we struggle with a lot. So hearing that, it definitely helps a lot. And I think to wrap us up today, I would love to hear any last pieces of advice or anything at all that you would like to say to the girls out there.
Yeah. You know what? Like, be good to yourself. Be good to yourself. We are in a world that recognizes emotional self-care. You can be highly successful, be a fantastic parent. Like I parent two really good humans, 10 and a half years apart. One wanted to go to the park, the other one wanted to go to Richia's shopping. You know what I mean? Like, it works. It all works. In terms of, having it all, you can, whatever that all means to you. Like, we are in a state of mindfulness, and we are in a time where we're raising that energy. We talk about energy in business and intuition in business. Like, this is a time where you get to be who you want to be and do what you want to do. And so there's really, when you think about it, not a lot of fear around that. Like, what a gift. So I would say, if you're really listening and entrepreneurship is on your mind, what if you go do what I did? What if you went to university and took a class in something and found out it wasn't for you? It's such a blessing to find out what it is that you truly want, right? So we are in the world of reinvention. I don't see anything that would be a blockade to that. And it's pretty joyful. We talked earlier about my love for freedom, and entrepreneurship is interesting. It can be very much of an illusion around freedom, which is why you really want to be passionate about what it is that you do. So um, I think that I will just leave kind of some words. Like, we always say, we're in the media world, so we say rock the stage, rock the page, and at the very least, rock your life. Yeah.
I love that so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to share with us.
Absolutely. That's what we do.